top5rapwebsite.com. You already know what's going on. Today, kind of just want to touch on something that had my timeline in its tizzy the other day. Is Joe Budden an all-time great in hip-hop, right? So before I even start this, first I want to define what I mean by all-time great. And then secondly, I do want to shout out Joe Budden because I do enjoy the podcast. I do really like what he did with Complex and how he catapulted that into his Spotify deal and how he's really maneuvering throughout the media landscape. Joe Budden TV, if you followed Joe Budden back then, what he's doing right now isn't surprising. But I think anybody who's reached this level of success in podcasting, especially from hip hop, that's going to be surprising. But when you look back at Joe Budden TV and the things he used to do, it's right on the right path with him. I'm a guy who used to watch those street DVDs, those hip hop DVDs. I used to read the Vibe and Source magazines when I was like 7-8 years old. So I'm a young guy, but I'm pretty well versed on a lot of the stuff that happened in hip hop early 2000s, late 90s. So when I say all-time great, now that we got the praises out the way, first of all, I think all these guys are great. All these rappers, to make it out of your situation and to be where you're at today, making something of yourself, feeding the family, I think all of them are great, right? But, let's really get to the nitty gritty. When I say all-time great, I'm talking about you're the greatest of the greatest. You got Pro Bowlers, and then you got All-Pro and Hall of Famers. All-Pro, that's kind of a different level. Hall of Fame, that's a different level. So when I say all-time great, I mean the greatest of the great. And for me, Joe Budden was never the greatest of the greats. I would never, ever say he can't rap because he can put words together. He can go a cappella, he can rap. You put a beat on, he can rap over it. But when I rank rappers, and it's just me personally, my personal preference, it's got to go beyond spitting and rhyming and putting words together. I'm looking at discographies. I really appreciate songwriters. I really appreciate guys who can put thematic albums together and projects together. So when I rank rappers, I'm not just thinking who has the best lyrical ability. I'm thinking discography. That's the number one thing that I think of when that's like what I hold in the most high regard. You ask me to rank my rappers, my favorite rappers, or who I think the best, discography is the number one thing on my mind. Discography meaning the albums, the collection of albums and mixtapes, and how good those are. So for me, Joe Budden is not a guy who has a really great discography. And I was on social media yesterday, and I just really spoke on mood music because I remember hearing mood music for the first time, back in the mid 2000s. I think I heard all three mood musics. I think it was like 2009 by that time. Then he came out with Mood Music 4, which was in 2010, I believe. Mood Music 4, which is the best one to me, largely because it's actually mixed and mastered with some effort. The first three mood musics, people call those classics, and personally, I don't think they're classic records. But when you have so many people or such a strong push for it, I can't deny it. Based on my personal preference, to me, I may not like it, but it's undeniable based on what people are saying. So, especially on the internet, because that's where Joe Budden really caught his footing. They really love mood musics 1 through 3. I like mood music 4. Remember the Titans. I do like some tracks off the first three mood musics, Family Reunion, etc., etc. Walk With Me. People really love those first three mood musics, and for me, I can't really get into those, and it's not really something I would recommend to someone, at this juncture in 2020, just because the mixing is it's pretty poor. It's not really something you can play nowadays. I know that there are good records out there that are not mixed so well, but when we talk about all-time greats, how many all-time greats from that era, their perennial projects, their magnum opus, how many of their projects are mixed that poorly to the point where you almost can't even listen to it? You put it on real speakers, the voice is kind of going into the beats kind of all just sounds like one thing, and it doesn't help that they're so long. Each mood music, 1 through 3, is like 20 tracks each, so you got 3+ hours. It's not mixed well. Joe Budden, he's rapping, but a lot of it is really the samey flow, samey delivery, formulaic song structures. You know, you got Amani spot. You know, the Amani features. Shout to Amani, but they're all pretty much done the same way. There's really no creativity in the structure of the song itself, and there's really no differentiating factors amongst the different tracks other than the different types of trauma he's talking about going through. You know, and I do recognize Mood Music as a mixtape series that was influential to many rappers. Joe Budden kind of helped pioneer emotional rap and really putting yourself out there in the way he did, and really putting himself on Front Street, real vulnerable. But it's not a mixtape series I could ever get into. You know, I've listened to them, and I'll take some tracks that I like. But even then, when those tracks come on during shuffle, it's like, bro, like I can't listen to this in the mix of other CDQ music. Like, these things stand out. Poor in a bad way, just due to the poor sound quality. So I can't consider Joe Budden an all-time great. I think he's a good rapper. He's not the best rapper I've ever heard either. He's good, but he's not like, you know, if we're just gonna give guys the all-time great status just based on them being able to rap well and being lyrical, we can give Randy from across the street. Bro can rap well. He don't have really any projects out. He kind of just do this for fun, but he can rap well. He got the double time flow. He could do quadruple entendres. But to me, the discography matters. Like, that is your contribution to the music. So, all-time great podcaster in hip-hop, yes. All-time great media figure in hip-hop, yes. Joe Budden, I'll put him like a Fab Five Freddy. Fab Five Freddy was a great media figure. Joe Budden, I'll put him like a maybe Arsenio Hall even. He had his own show. He was very influential. Classic interviews. Just like Joe Budden, podcast has some really, really great episodes. Years from now, we're going to look back and we're really going to miss this podcast if it's defunct. I don't think Joe Budden is all-time great. And even at the time, during the 2000s, again, I'm a young guy, but, you know, I do remember reading, you know, those hip-hop magazines that all the rest of y'all consumed as well. I was reading them just like y'all were, 7, 8, 9 years old. I remember seeing those street DVDs just like y'all was watching them. Joe Budden wasn't a guy that was a top rapper when he was out. So we can say, and when I say top rapper, I mean, I'm not just talking about lyrics, but even if you want to talk lyrics, I don't even think Joe Budden is top 5 from his region, from his era. When you talk 2000 to 2010, that's Joe Budden era, right? Am I wrong? I don't even think he's top 5 from his era. To be more specific, he's top 5 from his region from that era. You talk about Jadakiss, Fab, Styles P, Benny Siegel. That's 5 right there that can rap just as well as Joe Budden, and who also have a discography that holds weight. Joe Budden, it's not like he doesn't have albums. He has a lot of work, but like, how much of it is notable? And the most notable thing is the mood musics, but they're mixed so poorly. And then you start listening from track 1 to 20, and by track 8, it's like I get the gist of what this guy is doing. Now, if you really just want to sit with those stories he's telling, then yeah. But the same delivery of the punchlines, the same vocal inflections, damn near the same flow, and then it's unmixed, and then it's so long. Like, for a classic project, it's hard to sit through. So I think the mood music is more of a cult classic, but I do like mood music for it. But yeah, like I said, top 5 from that region. So we talk about all-time greats. I don't even think Joe Budden is top 5 from that era, from that region, much less you include the other regions, the South, the West, the North. You talk about just from that region during that era, rappers who rap just as well, if not better, and who have better discographies. Fabulous, more notable tapes, Jadakiss, Benny Siegel, Styles P. And that's just 5, that's just off the top of my head. I haven't even mentioned guys like Mos Def. I'm still talking about from that region. I've mentioned guys like, and just from that era, we're not even talking about all of hip hop to even start talking about all-time greats. I haven't mentioned guys like Mos Def. I haven't mentioned guys like DMX. I haven't mentioned the Nas's and the Jay-Z's. That's damn near 5 more. So I just named 9. Is he even top 10 from that region, from that era? Much less an all-time great, including all of hip hop. For me, the way I consider what my criteria is for all-time great, the discography is just not there. Now, Joe Budden may have a better discography than Benny Siegel, but Benny Siegel is a guy we remember Benny Siegel's punchlines, his famous lines. We can recite those. You can play those and people know them. Whereas I feel like Joe Budden was kind of more of a cult thing. He's more of a cult. You know, he had his cult fan. He still has this very cult fan base on the internet. They're going to be, in my comments, just like they were on social media, calling me all types of names with tears in their eyes because of my opinion. But, it's just my opinion. So, yeah, I wouldn't even say Joe Budden was top 5 or top 10 from 2000 to 2010, and just from that region, New Jersey, New York, tri-state area. And then when you consider the other regions and the other rappers, all time, not just 2000 to 2010, we talk about 2010 to current and 2000 prior, 80s, 90s, it just doesn't hold up for me. But I made this video because when I made the comment on social media, is Joe Budden an all-time great, a good amount of people felt like he is. I just don't feel like he is. I don't feel like he has discography. Sure, he can rap. He's lyrical. You go listen to Who Killed Hip Hop, Ordinary Love over the Novocaine beat. I believe Who Killed Hip Hop is over the Inner City Blues Marvin Gaye beat. Bars. You go listen to a Cypher, bars. But go listen to a Mood Music 1 through 3. I like Mood Music 4 a lot better. It's mixed and it's not as long as the other ones. So he kind of fixed like some of the issues that I had with the first 3. But the first 3 Mood Musics are what people go nuts over. His core fan base goes nuts over. You go listen to those. Start at track 1 and go all the way down to track 20. And really listen to it. Put it on some speakers and listen to it. And tell me, for a project that's not even, how old is them shits? These albums is not even 15 years old. You tell me if those projects, you play it and you're like, wow, this is classic. It's more of a cult classic to me. So yeah, Joe Budden, all-time great hip-hop media personality. From Joe Budden TV to Complex Everyday Struggle to Joe Budden podcast to whatever he does from after that, or if he continues with that and that's just one of those long-standing shows. All-time great in that arena. When you talk about lyricists, you might make the argument that Joe Budden is one of the better lyricists, but when you rank him against his peers from that era, we can roll off 10 guys just real quick who lyrics are just as good, but who also had the songwriting and who also had more lines that we can sit and remember as hip-hop fans and not just the cult fans. I would say Joe Budden, he ranks more on the tier of someone like Saigon. And I know Saigon is a guy he beef with. I'm not just saying it because of that. Saigon, a really good rapper who has Project, Greatest Story Never Told, that is held in very high regard amongst the cult core base of people. But when you talk lyricists, yeah, you could probably put Saigon as one of the better lyricists in rap. But we can put Albert from across the street who can rap really well. He's one of the greatest lyricists, we probably ever heard. Or Joe from Uptown, or this guy from that place on our block who can rap really well. You got to be able to put together an album for me. And yeah, I have heard the albums, The Escape Route, Padded Room. I haven't heard every single Joe Budden drop, but I've heard Mood Music's 1 through 4. I've heard Slaughterhouse drops, Escape Route, Padded Room. Oh, the Some Love Lost, I heard that. I think that was an EP. And All Love Lost. And I want to say there was another Love Lost. But again, these are not albums that I really revisit too much. So anyways, again, shout out to Joe Budden, JBP. And again, do you think Joe Budden is an all-time great? Let me know what you think in the comments. Be sure to subscribe if you do not hate me enough already. Or if you agree, let me know you agree, because they're going to be on my head over these comments. Anyways, top5rapwebsite.com. Peace.